SpaceX's next-generation Mars-colonizing Starship vehicle could make its first extraterrestrial touchdown in just 3 short years. SpaceX is eligible to propose using its Starship vehicle to carry NASA robotic science payloads to the lunar surface, the U.S. Space Agency announced Monday, the 18th of November, on missions that could precede the Starship flights with people on board. In its ongoing effort to send cargo and eventually people to the lunar surface, NASA announced 5 new partnerships with commercial space companies that have designed robotic landers that can take large payloads to the moon via the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services (CLPS) program. SpaceX proposes to do this work with Starship and Super Heavy, the reusable spaceship-rocket duo that the company is developing primarily to help humanity become a multi-planet species. And Starship could start putting NASA payloads down on Earth's nearest neighbor quite soon, if all goes according to plan. For Commercial Lunar Payload Services, we offer the Starship and Super Heavy launch capability, said Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's president and chief operating officer. That capability far exceeds the mass that Commercial Lunar Payload Services was looking for, but we think that brings pretty extraordinary capability to NASA, both for the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program and others. Starship is capable of carrying 100 metric tons to the moon's dusty gray surface on each trip, Shotwell said. NASA requires the Commercial Lunar Payload Services providers to be capable of delivering at least 22 pounds or 10 kilograms of payload mass to the moon. Shotwell said SpaceX, founded and led by billionaire Elon Musk, aims to land a Starship on the moon in 2022. SpaceX is excited about the CLPS partnership as well. Starship was always designed to carry people, but early uncrewed efforts such as communication satellite launches, CLPS flights, and cargo missions to the Martian surface will prove out the vehicle, Shotwell said. CLPS is a great piece of what we want to get done with Starship, she said. Similar to the way SpaceX developed a cargo variant of the Dragon capsule before designing and building an upgraded, human-rated Dragon spacecraft. We're leveraging NASA initially for cargo and science, so I think it's a nice stepping stone and a nice path to getting comfortable with the technology, so that it's reliable enough to put people on board. In this video, Engineering Today will discuss SpaceX's Starship spacecraft, which may start flying moon missions in 2022. NASA partners with SpaceX and more to send large payloads to the moon. Let's get into details. The other 4 companies that joined the Commercial Lunar Payload Services pool on this Monday are California-based Ceres Robotics and Tyvek Nano Satellite Systems Incorporated, Sierra Nevada Corp of Colorado, and Washington-based Blue Origin. They join Astrobotic, Deep Space Systems, Draper, Firefly Aerospace, Intuitive Machines, Lockheed Martin, Maston Space Systems, Moon Express, and Orbit Beyond, the 9 companies selected as Commercial Lunar Payload Services providers last year. The companies being added Monday all vow to transport much heavier payloads than what the original 9 CLPS companies say they can carry. The original 9 companies needed to be able to carry up to 22 pounds, that's 10 kilograms, to the lunar surface. But some of these new providers claim they'll eventually be able to carry several tons to the moon. We have a need and saw a need to bring on some additional providers that had enhanced lander capabilities. Steve Clark, Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration in NASA's Science Mission Directorate, said during a press conference announcing the new CLPS participants. This is based on our objectives, the agency's objectives, to get to the moon as soon as possible, both from a scientific standpoint and from a human exploration standpoint. Clark said NASA received 8 proposals to join the roster of Commercial Lunar Payload Services providers. The agency picked 5 companies to on-ramp to the CLPS program. All of them bring to the table different strengths and different ideas, and that's what we want to bring as NASA continues to lean forward and use commercial services to explore the moon, Clark said. We want as many diverse ideas as we can on the table, so we look forward to hearing, reading, and assessing those ideas when we put out these task orders. For Blue Origin, the company is bidding its very public Blue Moon lander design, which founder Jeff Bezos first unveiled in May. Blue Origin's Blue Moon cargo lander can deliver nearly 8,000 pounds, or 3.6 metric tons, of payload equipment to the lunar surface. Brent Sherwood, Blue Origin's Senior Vice President of Advanced Development Programs, said this Monday that the Blue Moon lander is designed to survive the 2-week-long lunar night and can launch on the company's New Glenn rocket. Some of the companies are fairly ambitious with their timelines, claiming they'll be able to send their spacecraft to the moon within the next few years. Ceres Robotics is aiming to land by 2023, while Sierra Nevada Corporation says it will be ready by 2022. John Roth, Vice President of Business Development at Sierra Nevada's Space Systems Division, said the company will modify existing small satellite platforms for lunar lander missions to haul lighter payloads to the moon. Technologies developed for Sierra Nevada's Dream Chaser space station cargo transporter could be used to carry heavier equipment to the lunar surface, Roth said. The other company's initial lander designs are capable of carrying smaller payload packages to the moon. Tyvak Nano Satellite Systems specializes in building CubeSats and other smaller satellites, and Ceres Robotics to develop vehicles to explore the surfaces of the moon, Mars, asteroids, and other planetary bodies. NASA started the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program to purchase unpiloted rides to the moon for the agency's scientific payloads aboard privately owned spacecraft. NASA views this Commercial Lunar Payload Services as a key enabler of its Artemis program of crewed lunar exploration, which aims to put 2 astronauts, including the first woman, on the moon by 2024 and establish a long-term human presence there by 2028. As the agency prepares to meet that challenge, NASA wants to send tech to the moon to study the lunar environment more in depth, as well as demonstrate technologies that might be used for future human missions. Additionally, NASA wants to send a new rover to the moon called Viper, which will travel to the lunar South Pole and scout for potential water ice that might be lurking there. Engineers are interested in using this water ice as a resource for future human missions. Commercial spacecraft will land hardware and experiments, such as the Viper, that pave the way for these astronaut pioneers, agency officials have stressed. And buying a ride on private craft, rather than developing and building its own landers, will save the agency a great deal of money, NASA officials said. The 14 companies now part of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program are eligible to compete for NASA contracts to ferry scientific instruments to the moon. Being chosen to be part of the CLPS program doesn't guarantee each company a NASA contract to send their spacecraft to the moon. It simply means that NASA will consider using these companies if and when it wants to send cargo or scientific instruments to the lunar surface. NASA will put out calls for capabilities that the agency wants, and the companies will bid to have the opportunity to ferry NASA's cargo to the moon. The services we are buying or procuring are end-to-end, Clark said. The companies that we award task orders are responsible for securing a ride on a launch vehicle and, of course, delivering our instruments or payloads to the surface, then actually enabling us to operate those instruments or payloads on the surface of the moon. American aerospace companies of all sizes are joining the Artemis program, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said in a release. Expanding the group of companies who are eligible to bid on sending payloads to the moon's surface drives innovation and reduces costs to NASA and American taxpayers. We anticipate opportunities to deliver a wide range of science and technology payloads to help make our vision for lunar exploration a reality and advance our goal of sending humans to explore Mars. In May, NASA selected 3 companies from its original pool of participants, Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, and Orbit Beyond, to send robotic landers to the moon in the early 2020s, with each spacecraft carrying a variety of payloads. Only 2 of those companies are continuing toward that goal now, as Orbit Beyond said it would not be able to meet its late 2020 deadline. None of these 5 companies have actually built or launched their vehicles yet, so it's likely their timelines will be delayed, and it's still unclear exactly which rockets will take these vehicles to space. Presumably, SpaceX will launch its Starship on its own future rocket, the Super Heavy, while Blue Origin's lander will fly in the company's future New Glenn rocket. The details for the other cargo spacecraft have not been finalized yet, and it's still unknown how NASA plans to use these companies in the years ahead. NASA is looking to the private sector to build the crewed Artemis lander. The agency selected 11 companies this past May to conduct studies and build prototypes, and this pool had to submit detailed proposals by November 8th. NASA is expected to pick up the 4 finalists early next year. In October 2019, NASA unveiled the new spacesuits to be worn by astronauts during the upcoming moon missions. The Exploration Extravehicular Mobility Unit, or XEMU suit for short, is designed to be less restrictive and allow far more movement than previous spacesuit designs, and also protect the astronauts from the extreme temperatures that they're expected to experience during their lunar explorations. The Super Heavy and Starship, both designed for reuse, will be powered by SpaceX's methane-fueled Raptor rocket engines. SpaceX intends to land the Super Heavy on the ground, similar to the way the company lands Falcon rocket boosters. The Starship will be similarly capable of vertical landings on Earth or other planetary surfaces. SpaceX is building prototypes of the Starship vehicle in Texas and Florida. There are big SpaceX Starship milestones coming in the near future as well. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your valuable feedback in the comment section. This will help us to improve.